Yes, a very good morning, and you're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV, and it's that time when we take a look at the headlines this morning. And to help me look at the news headlines this morning, we have Senators Stephen Sang from Nandi County and Kimani Wamatangi from Kiambu County. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
As the show progresses, we're hoping we'll be joined by two other senators, two of your colleagues, but we'll wait and see. So a quick look at the headlines this morning. We'll start with the Standard. And Wetangula gives Raila Kalonzo a new condition. He wants Prime Minister or Chief Minister, very interesting posts, reserved, and parties to fill candidates except for President and Nairobi Governor posts. That's what is on the front page of the Standard. Down there on the Standard, another very interesting development coming from Uganda. Uganda MPs legislate own state burials and expensive coffins. Currently, they'll be receiving 1.5 million shillings each for their funerals.
No.
And they already have 4.5 million shillings for cars. That's in Uganda. Right. Back home, of course, Daily Nation, ODM rebels fight back as Raila dares them to step down. This is about the defectors who joined Jubilee Party. We'll be discussing this and the headline on the Standard in a short while. These leaders say they will remain in opposition party but will defend their seats in 2017 on a Jubilee ticket, as Odinga challenges them to quit. Also on the front page of the Daily Nation, Maja Uhuru Ruto will retain their seats. That's according to the Registrar of Political Parties, who has dismissed a plea by a lawyer who wanted the seats of the President and Deputy President declared vacant after they dissolved their party. Also, still on the front page of the Daily Nation, Fort Kenya says no to joint CORD polls. Something similar on the Star. Raila to register CORD party for 2017, ODM Wiper, Fort Kenya and 10 other affiliated parties. Sounds almost like the script we were talking about, we were discussing a few weeks ago when it came to Jubilee. Will be able to fill their own candidates. We'll be discussing that in a short while. And today we take a look at the headline on Taifa Leo as well. Mvutano CORD wakubaliana kuhusu uteuzi wa mgombeaji rais na kutofautiana kuhusu nyadhifa zingine. Same headline, it's about CORD and what is happening there. But now that you have the senator from Nandi County, I'd like to start with a story from your county, and which I'm sure you're very much interested in, and it's about what is happening at the University of Nairobi. Before we come to the of Moi University.
From my region.
Yeah, from your region.
Yeah.
And on page 8, and I'm sure it's also on the Standard. We also had it on Citizen TV News. On page 8 of the Daily Nation, Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i yesterday told politicians in the North Rift region to, quote, grow up. He defended his appointment of Professor Laban Ayiro as acting Vice Chancellor of Moi University. A security was beefed up at the university's 32nd graduation ceremony, which starts today and tomorrow. Of course, we've seen that on Tuesday, Governors Jackson Mandago and Alex Tolgos of Uasin Gishu and Marakwet, respectively, as well as members of parliament, stormed the university. They said they would paralyze the graduation and said Professor Isaac Kosgei should have gotten the job and not Professor Ayiro. Now, yesterday, Senator, you addressed journalists at Parliament on this matter. And what is your stand on this?
Thank you, Fred. If you look at the matter with regards to Moi University is one of the oldest universities in this country and within the region. And we have been engaged on issues around Moi University for quite a while now, since we came in. One of the challenges that the university has faced is, underfunding. They have needed support for infrastructural development. They also have had issues with the road to the university, and therefore, as leaders, the university management has invited us on several occasions to discuss some of these things, to lobby for them, to get resources through the national, government funding processes. And we have always agreed that there are certain management decisions that must be made by Moi University in order to make it more effective and in terms of service delivery. One of the challenges that Moi University now faces is that most of its senior management officials are acting or are working in acting capacities. The DVCs, we have 2 DVCs in acting capacities. We have now the Vice Chancellor in acting capacity, and we are aware that the process to recruit a new CEO at Moi University started almost 6 months ago. The council completed its processes and forwarded 3 names to the Cabinet Secretary for appointment. The law, as Matiang'i quotes, is that he receives the 3 names, in order of merit, and then it's for the minister to do the needful and appoint a substantive CEO. What we were taken aback is a situation where, after the process has been concluded, this is almost 2.5 months into the conclusion of the process. Instead of the CS appointing a substantive vice chancellor for the university, he goes ahead to appoint an acting CEO. For me, you are creating a possible management crisis where you have an acting vice chancellor, you have 2 deputy vice chancellors in acting capacities, and therefore they are unable to discharge their mandate as managers of the university in a proper manner. And that is why I personally express my position that the minister needs to prioritize issues within Moi University and appoint a substantive CEO.
Yes.
However, I have no problem with the appointment of Professor Laban Ayero as the acting, because Ayero is not even among the 3 who had applied for the job and who were interviewed and whose names were forwarded to the minister. So really, this is somebody being brought in acting capacity.
Yes.
Most likely, I believe a number of my colleagues, the leaders from North Rift, may have misunderstood that particular fact. But I think it is important for us to say 2 things. One, that nobody should be denied an opportunity to work anywhere in this country on account of his tribe.
So you do disagree with your colleagues who say that it has to be a local from that region to head the university?
Absolutely. It does not have to be the local. In fact, if we have to ensure that our public universities are able to be managed properly, merit should be the anything. It's unfortunate that when you look at all the public universities and you look at the people manning those universities, the tendency has always been that you get somebody from the local, and this is a challenge that the minister needs to address. But we should never sacrifice merit on the table of tribalism. Whereas it is wrong to insist that every vice chancellor of a university should come from the local community. It is also tribalism to deny an opportunity somebody who has topped in, who has come out as the best candidate, just because his name resembles the locals, and then you deny him the opportunity. I think this could be what we are reading. Are
you privy to the list of 3 names presented to the cabinet secretary?
Absolutely.
Yes,
I am.
Okay.
And I wouldn't go into the details, but I can tell you the said name topped in that particular list.
Okay.
However, we know that the minister has the latitude. That is why the Universities Act says you forward a list of 3 names. So the minister has to, if you have to go with merit, then you appoint the top candidate. If for some reason you are uncomfortable with the top candidate, then you have to go to the second candidate, but the minister has to explain why not the first candidate. If he is uncomfortable with the first and the second, then he can appoint the third person, but must give reasons why not the first one and why not the second one. I think that is really, that context needs to be understood.
Yes, and I want to bring in Senator Wamatangi in this matter now, because as Senator Sang says, there could be confusion because people are not understanding. This debate has been taken a different tangent, because now it's gone tribal, and you can see very senior leaders, including governors, just saying that no, it has to be someone from our community, someone from this region. And because what he's saying is about whether or not the merits or demerits of having an VC on acting capacity as opposed to a substantive vice chancellor.
First, I want to acknowledge that I think in the course of those appointments, there is and there has been extremely intense competition, internal competition between the possible candidates themselves. I remember sometimes back in the same university, I was approached sometimes by a friend of mine who came and told me, look here, I want you to assist us. One of my colleagues and good friends has been looking for this particular job. And they have gone for the interviews and were interviewed, and we think, and the guy who is telling me that is actually one of the lecturers there. And we know that she topped the list. But there are rumors that she will not be given the job. And I listened and we tried to find out, and eventually it went the way it did. I remember sometimes again, before Kimani was transferred to the ministry he's serving, I had the opportunity to go and see him myself, accompanied by 2 other senators, on a similar issue. And this time the contest was here.
Were you lobbying for someone to be hired?
No. I mean, we had been approached. I was accompanied by one of the senators, Senator Motahi Kagwe, who has been a former chair of the education committee in the Senate. And he told me, let's go together. And we have a discussion with the minister, because I've been approached. This is a letter that has been brought to me. There are some appointments which are about to be made, and one of the top candidates has been subdued on reasons which are not merit-worthy, and is not going to get the job. We also went and had a discussion with him. What I'm saying is, it is true, there has been that kind of competition. In fact, you know, but on a light touch, yesterday I was saying, I think I'm going to also send my team and find out who is the current VC and how did they get their job at Kenyatta University and JQ. I mean, because looks, anyway, this is what I'm saying. But 2 things. One, it is important that we say clearly as leaders, and I'm glad my colleague Senator Sang, coming from that region, is of the same opinion, that we must let these institutions also have their autonomy and freedom and latitude to be run professionally. And especially the acknowledgement that he has made on the current appointment of the VC who is acting, that he is a passing cloud.
But are we seeing like devolution is being used now to determine ownership of some of these institutions? That this, as long as it's in our county, it is up to us to determine who is a CEO.
No, I think the point I wanted to make is that I think we can't afford to go that way as leaders. You know, it would be very, very wrong, and I would want. I see the language that, as you read out there, that was used by the minister, that the politicians should grow up. It's good to tell him that politicians are already grown up, and so communication must be cordial and so.
I was just quoting what was
that's the way it is written in the paper. That's true, but then also. To our leaders, especially senior leaders like governors and members of parliament, there's a better way to address issues. I mean, if we are seen to go there and demonstrate and blockade the gates of the institution and say there will be no graduation, there will be no operations in this place, then how are we going to address our own employees at the county level when they come and block our own gates, when they are saying that we want a salary increment? So how are they going to address doctors when they go on strike and say we've not been paid? They down their tools and people are dying in hospitals, and they say we saw you at Moi University, so we are repeating what you did. I mean, what are we going to tell our children? I think that's not the way to go.
Yes.
There should be a better, more, you know, agreeable, I don't want to call it civilized, way of dealing with this.
Yes. Now your colleagues, the leaders from that region, have actually threatened to block the graduation, which starts today and tomorrow. What would you tell them now? Because Professor Iro has already taken over as the acting VC.
Yeah. No, I think that would be unfortunate. It needs to be understood that a graduation ceremony for a big university like Moi University that has partnerships with other international universities out there, a graduation is such an important function within the calendar of the university. And we have a lot of I am told 5,000 students are graduating from, in this year's 32nd graduation in Moi University. 5,000 students, you can't hold them at ransom on account of, some, differences and management problems within the university. So I think from my side, and I said that as much yesterday, that Moi University's programs should be allowed, and that this acting Vice Chancellor needs to be supported. It's clear in his appointment letter that he is acting for 3 months. Yes. The only issue that we are taking caution on is that within the HR practice, if an interview process has been conducted and it goes beyond 3 months, the practice has always been that it lapses, so that then the danger that we are seeing ourselves is that appointing an acting vice chancellor for 3 months, you have not disclosed or made a decision on the basis of the recruitment process that was completed by the council of the university. Then we could run into a situation where somebody thinks that maybe the minister is uncomfortable with the first with the top candidate, and that you want to extend you are providing an opportunity for the acting VC to act for 3 months, and that means by the time the issue of the conducted interviews lapse. And I have some reasons for this, that the council members are part and parcel of the stakeholders within the university. They have involved us on several occasions when they require some support within national government to secure 1 or 2, 3 things, and therefore we are in communication with this council for the university. And we have received information that there is some bit of pressure on them to cancel the entire process and start afresh. And when they insisted that we need that communication in writing, giving reasons, somebody is uncomfortable to do it in writing. And therefore I'm seeing I'm in a situation where somebody could be trying to work around the law and ensure that then the outcome of this interview lapses. But we want to tell everybody, every student, every stakeholder engaged in Moi University for the graduation, that as leaders we support the university, let the graduation continue, and then afterwards we will continue engaging with the minister. But I want to say that that kind of tone by the minister is unfortunate. You can't tell politicians to keep up the universities, but when they require support and resources and a partnership, they come to us. I can tell you for a fact that there is a university coming up in Wamatangi's county, in Gatundu. He has spent a lot of time together with the area member of parliament in pushing for the resources allocation to that university and all the necessary support. So it can't be that when you need support for the university, you are okay with the involvement of the leadership, then at a time when there is an issue, you tell us of. So I think, whereas I disagree with the approach by the leaders in the region, but I think it is important for the minister to appreciate that you cannot just wish away members of, because you are calling us politicians. But we are members of the National Assembly, members of the Senate, who allocate resources to that particular ministry and to those institutions. So I think that kind of tone was not also appropriate coming from the minister.
As we speak, police are on campus at the Moi University to secure the 32nd graduation ceremony, which kicks off today. And the government has vowed to protect the newly appointed Vice Chancellor, Professor Airo, who's on an acting capacity. But now, as we talked about this behavior by politicians, the use of force, you mentioned it. And we've seen it over and over again. We saw something similar in Nyeri County the other day when members of the National Assembly stormed the governor's office and demanded that the flag be brought down and the staff go home and stuff like that. Now, something similar is also happening in Embu County, where we saw the Senator Kivuti and member of the National Assembly, Cecily Mbarire, actually scaffolding public. And this is a story that is actually on the County News edition of the Daily Nation. Debate on Mbarire Kivuti's part tears assembly apart, and they say the Sunday clash between the Embu Senator and the Runyenjes Member of Parliament spilled to the local assembly, with members engaging in an emotional debate over it. Of course, what happened, we saw it. And this behavior you mentioned, once politicians show it publicly that we cannot manage our issues amicably and we have to use force, then what happens as we move on to the elections?
Well, on this particular incident between the two legislators, I was very clear-minded on it, that it was wrong, it is not right, and it was shameful. It's nothing short of that, because I mean, what justification is there for two leaders who are supposed to be the example of that particular county to fail to not only restrain themselves but show good manners, good mannerisms, for that matter. I mean, what is this big tragedy that will occur just because one person has come to address the people with a microphone, not with a gun? and then after that he can finish and say all his things. You take the microphone and also say all the things you want to say. Finally, if they are competing, the two of them, the decision has always been, and I'm saying this as a member of the newly formed Jubilee Party, that is not the message we want to send out. That's not what we stand for. We have already been very clear that where there will be competing interests, those people will be allowed to go to the people on an extremely level playing field, and they will go and sell their visions and their ideas to the people, and they can go to a nomination process, which we have insisted. And remember, I've said on this particular show that we have fast-tracked the process where we want the IABC to be the one that will be ensuring that the process is fair and not partisan. So, in a county, I've been to Embu myself. I sat in the committee actually that impeached Wambora in the Senate, and when we were conducting those hearings, the first thing that comes out from all the people who came is that that particular county is heavily divided along clan and sectoral interests. There are the Mberes and the other group, and one is supporting this one and the other one is supporting this one. There was a compromise, of course, who will be elected governor and who will take the position of senator. There's that kind of as we are now calling it guided democracy.
Yes.
And so these politicians are fully aware that these are the prevailing circumstances in their own backyard. Now, to bring it or to take it beyond that now, that it gets to the point whereby the Wananchi now will have to watch the two leaders settling scores physically, then what will happen to the Wananchi when these guys are off the scene? And it boils down, as you can see already, as reported, the assembly itself is getting emotional and divided. I think we have to say this to every leader, no matter who you are, no matter what position you hold. If you are wrong, you are wrong. And if and when the party is fully operational, these kind of cases must be disciplined. Yeah, it must be discouraged. Yeah, so that we can ensure that we take off in the right way.
Yes, and of course it has a lot to do with the merger of the Jubilee Party, because now competition has grown tenfold, because now you're all competing for one ticket. And you have been quoted in a section of the media asking people from your area to vote only for Jubilee candidates and not for the other parties around it. Of course, it is to be expected, but don't you think that also in your region you run the risk of having such scuffles?
You know, I think what Wamatangi is saying is important, that and you are likely to see a lot of this jostling towards the elections. In fact, it's coming too early in Embu, but I'm sure the kind of political competition you are likely to see in this country would be huge. As a party in Jubilee, we agreed that we needed to sort out a lot of these challenges that we have had. I can tell you for a fact that pulling together and the wisdom behind, Jubilee coming together and folding all the other political parties into one outfit, was well thought out. However, that means that there will be huge competition and political competition around, the nominations. That is why for us we insisted that we think that it is important for the IABC to hold our nominations, to preside over our nominations. Once because if you look at this kind of competition in Embu, assuming you are to tell us that then the nominations for the governor's seat in Embu would be conducted by the party, you can imagine the kind of mess you can easily get yourself into. So we only want to say that I know in our region we are clear-minded. If we needed competition from within our political parties, would be doing what CORD is now discussing, going in the direction of forming one political outfit for the president and the deputy, then coming down to the various political parties competing against themselves. But for us, we chose the path that we needed to unite, have one political outfit, compete fairly and squarely within the nominations. The nominations are going to be conducted free and fair. Whoever wins the nominations is fairly the candidate most likely will win the elections.
Yes.
So I think for us, we are prepared. I think what we only need is good manners from members of from the political side.
Yes.
It is too early to go in this kind of direction, but also politicians must appreciate that we are going to see a lot of shifting alliances, especially in counties like Embu, Elgeyo Marakwet, where you have two major ethnic sort of community groupings, and you had some pre-election negotiated agreements. The challenge, and I think if people had appreciated the need for the county development boards through the bill that I sponsored myself, where all the leaders, the reason why negotiated democracy is unlikely to work in these particular elections is because of the way the leaders in the previous arrangement.
It's winner takes it all.
Yeah, it's winner takes it all. So you agreed that this community gets the governorship, that other region gets the senatorship, the other region gets the running mate, and the other one gets women rep. But once the elections were done, the governor carried the entire, the entire government machinery, allocated resources in a manner that he wanted. At the end of the day, locking out every other person. If governors had realized the importance of leaders coming together, sitting under a county development board, agreeing on prioritization of projects, you are unlikely to see this kind of
as you say, you have a bill you sponsored in Parliament. I don't know how far it's gone.
Actually, the bill went through the Senate, went through the National Assembly. It was assented by the President. The governors went to court and challenged it, and that is where it got stuck in.
So
there.
we still run the risk of having this same situation.
In fact, if this one is between a senator and a member of Parliament, you are likely to see serious one between governors and senators and members of the National Assembly. And this is, self-inflicted. If we agreed that political power and resources within the counties will be shared equitably in accordance to the initial negotiations, you would have seen less of this kind of tussling that you are likely to see in counties.
We're about to take a short break, but when we return, I will discuss what is happening in within the opposition court. Of course, the discussion, the proposal on this proposal of whether or not they should actually register a CORD political party, and also we see what Ford Kenya has said, the demands that have come forth, as well as we'll discuss this matter of the defectors who joined Jubilee just recently, and the demand that they quit their previous parties and seek re-election through a by-election. Let's take a short break. Power Breakfast returns.